One thing I do notice when I come into here, you've got wonderful art, but a lot of it almost seems like it shouldn't go together.
Well, it doesn't. I think that's the point. I think there's no two pieces that you think should go together here. And we wanted to go with eclectic, but really good. So I think on their own, there's no piece of art in here that's not really interesting, doesn't have a backstory, and isn't in somehow inspiring. But like, you would never see this type of classic photography next to crazy graffiti anywhere else. Nobody would normally put those together, and we purposely tried to put pieces together that look really disjointed and don't work, it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I think somehow we're getting away with it. I'm not saying it's working, but what I'm saying is I think we're getting away with it. Even though there's no photographs allowed in the green room, the occasional one that does get out of someone performing at that table's always got the black Lorat in the back, and it kind of frames it. And you know that Peter Crouch and Steve Sidwell did the Crouchy podcast from there, so like there's dozens of TikToks and stuff with it in the background. So it's become kind of iconic and associated with here, and we love having it here.
Hi there guys, I'm the founder of Woodbury House, and I have this gentleman next to me, Oisín Rogers, who is the owner and partner of the Devonshire.
Good morning, how are you doing?
All good, mate.
You alright, Stephen?
All good.
We've been spending a few evenings together the last couple of weeks. It's been good crack, and thanks for helping out with the art.
No problem. I think to start this conversation off, what brought us together, the Devonshire and Woodbury House, was our love for art, creativity, and talking about art and talking about the culture. We're sitting in a place called the Green Room, which is part of the Devonshire, and inside this room is some wonderful art. We installed on the 2nd of November on Saturday, and we had a few people over our collectors, a Richard Hambleton Gold Horse and Rider limited edition, a Toxic limited edition print taken from the show that we just did, and then also at the back, the signature piece, in my opinion, an original Black the Rat, I Love Beef.
Yeah. It's funny because that used to be a window there, and we've just covered it up because I wanted this room to be really full of very eclectic art that pops and makes people think. And now that's up there, it really looks like it's always been there, doesn't it? It's almost like it's been made for the space. And
absolutely.
It's only been up since yesterday, really, but everybody's like, "What the fuck have you done? That's mental," you know. And I like to get reactions like that from people when they look at what we've put on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, in context, we've been open a year now, and on the 1st of November last year, these walls had nothing on them at all. There's a photograph on them with everything apart from the Gilbert and George fuck 'em all. So that's where we started. And I was talking to musicians last night, and they were saying, you know, we started off in an empty room and a fuck 'em all sign, and now look at it, and we're pretty proud of it.
Yeah. What brought us to your establishment for the first time, a number of months ago, was the first Black the Rat that you had in here,
yeah,
which is just around the corner from when we're sitting.
Yeah.
We brought Mr. Black the Rat over when we was doing our War and Peace exhibition, which you kindly came to, and he done a feature not only on top of the perspex of that particular one,
yeah,
but then he done a crooner rat really high up on the exterior.
We're pretty stoked to have that on the outside because it's such a great piece to have. And I love that quote from Banksy, "Everything I've ever done, Black Lorat's done before." So for me, just to have that on the wall here is brilliant. And of course it belongs to Marcus White, who's a great customer of ours. And I like to think that he loves it so much, but he can't put it in his house because it's so outrageous and so big. Mm-hmm. And I have to be honest with you, when I went up there first, we didn't love it as much as we do now. And it seems to have grown with us and become part of the room and part of us. And even though there's no photographs allowed in the green room, the occasional one that does get out of someone performing at that table's always got the black Lorat in the back, and it kind of frames it. And you know that Peter Crouch and Steve Sidwell did the Crouchy podcast from there, so like there's dozens of TikToks and stuff with it in the background. So it's become kind of iconic and associated with here, and we love having it here.
Yeah. I saw the Peter Crouch bit of content and podcast. I've seen him in here a number of times actually, and that always normally appears in the background somewhere. So to have a second one equally as big but a completely different message altogether, I Love Beef. I mean, for me, I've said this to you before, if Black the Rat Studio said to me, look, Steve, without paying us any money, we will gift you a work.
Wow.
You can choose anything you want. I've got to be honest, I do believe it will be the 2012 I Love Beef piece. I think it's great.
Yeah, it really fits in with what we're doing and doing things really well, having the best of any collection. You know, when we look at what we do in terms of the food, the wine, the Guinness, the draft lager, how we look at things like steak knives, how we cook the beef, we try and always choose and go for the very best possible stuff, and that kind of fits in with what we do, I think, for that to be there like that.
And I'm just curious actually, because I don't think I've actually asked you this. So the crooner rat, which is one of his famous stencil rats talking into a microphone, bit of a nod to Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack and stuff. Do people ever look at that and come in and wonder about it, or do they know who it is? Do they know it's Black the Rat?
I think a lot of people will work it out that it is him, because he has signed it underneath as well. But people do come in and ask, is that a Banksy? How did that get there? What's the story? And you tell them the reflection between the fact that it's outside the green room, that this is where people sing, and I think it's really it's got a really nice sort of synergy with the place, and we're very proud it's there.
Definitely. One thing I do notice when I come into here, you've got wonderful art, but a lot of it almost seems like it shouldn't go together.
Well, it doesn't. I think that's the point. I think there's no two pieces that you think should go together here, and we wanted to go with eclectic but really good. So I think on their own, there's no piece of art in here that's not really interesting, doesn't have a backstory, and isn't in somehow inspiring. But like, you would never see this type of classic photography next to crazy graffiti anywhere else. And you got these beautiful ink line drawings by Jim Butler. We got quite a few pieces by Damien Priestley, which are eclectic in themselves. And then we got a couple of lenticulars, and we got the Noel Gallagher. You got the Ed Sheeran, and you got some great pieces by Rusty O'Shacklewell as well. So like, it's nobody would normally put those together, and we purposely tried to put pieces together that look really disjointed and shouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I think somehow we're getting away with it. I'm not saying it's working, but what I'm saying is I think we're getting away with it.
You definitely are, mate. I really do love that collaboration piece, Ed Sheeran and Damien Hirst.
Yeah.
I actually noticed on the back wall there's a piece of art, almost like holograms. I know you're better to tell me who that's by.
That's by Jeff Robb, who's a pretty celebrated holographer and lenticular specialist. And I actually know Jeff going back to probably about 1993, 94, 95, when his studio was in Richmond in the back garden of a pub I used to run. I'd not seen him for 20 years. He came in here and said, I really want to do something for you. So that collection of photos, some are by him, some are by Ashley Palmer Watts, some are by Lara, my daughter. I think there's one or two of mine in there as well. And he's chosen, 24, is it? Photos, and put them all together and made them into 3D. So he's made them pop, and that's called A Day in the Life of the Devonshire. But the great thing I love about that is it's got kind of a timelessness in all the photos, and all of our key people, from Sujan, Charlie, me, Ashley, Lara, Mia, Paula, and George the Butcher, they're all in there, So for me, it's quite very personal to what we've done over the last year. And I love that every time I look at it, I see something else in it.
Yeah, me too.
And that by itself, I think, is something that we're very proud of.
Yeah, it's very, very animated. It's got a lot of energy, and it's quite an exciting piece to look at. You actually do think they are real TVs on, and you're kind of waiting for them to change over. And when you get closer to it, especially when you've had a few Guinnesses, they do start to really, really move. Yeah. So your love for art in its entirety, broadly speaking, seems like you've always had a bit of a passion for art going way back.
Well, I have, and I've always loved it. And, I've always visited galleries and had a yearning to buy some art and have it, but I've never really got round to it. I've taken a few photographs myself along the way, but I think when I was working in Mayfair at the Guinea, being next to Christie's and Sotheby's was one of my favourite things. Like, on my break, I'd go to Sotheby's all the time, and you could walk in there and it could be anything, as you know, and it's like a living gallery itself anyway. When they auctioned off David Bowie's collection of art and all his furniture, the stuff that was in there. And I think that really inspired me because he collected all really weird eclectic stuff that didn't mix. And I really enjoyed the Vivienne Westwood stuff as well that went on sale up there. There was a brilliant sale of Freddie Mercury's gear as well. He collected a lot of graffiti and a lot of different things. Yeah, we'll have them. We'll have a couple of pints. Yeah, it's Guinness Zero, by the way, because it's 11 a.m. But
yeah,
definitely worth it. But you know, I remember going in there and seeing stuff like original Picasso's, beautiful things. You see a bit of Van Gogh, and you think, "Fuck me, you've got to have a bit of that on the wall somewhere." And we're working on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that stood out for me when I came in here. There was a lot of art in here. I could tell you were very, very passionate, and it feels like, it sounds a bit cheesy, but art really does bring people together. And then top that up with a nice bit of beer or a Guinness.
Yeah.
It really is a good way to get to know people.
Well, we're in the green room, and the green room was an addition. It was a complete afterthought, added on to what we do with the pub. And I wanted somewhere where creative people would feel comfortable, safe and happy. So that's really kind of worked out for us because, we have the music in here. We've got a lot of singers, songwriters, filmmakers, film directors, A&R people come from music. You've got photographers, you've got artists, you've got people who do all sorts of creative things, writers, actors, all the West End people. And this is really what this melting pot of a room is for. And we do have to make it a little bit exclusive because otherwise it'd be full of, regular people who would just be coming and going. But we want to keep it for people we know, our friends, family, and they tend to be creative and we get a buzz out of that.
Yeah. So, you mentioned earlier, you've only been going for a year. If someone were to step into this premises for the first time, especially if you come late afternoon, early evening on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whenever, you would feel that this place has been here for 200 years. How have you got that buzz in such a short
Well, I think it's important to realise that there has been a pub here since 1793. And I was actually physically annoyed when they closed this pub down, the Devonshire, in 2008-9, and then they knocked it all together and turned it into this huge restaurant and forgot about its heritage as a pub. And Charlie and I in particular, and Ashley, felt it was a noble thing to bring back that timeless history of a boozer being here. And that was the premise of what we wanted to create. And I remember going for a really long walk with Charlie, probably about 2 years ago, when he said to me, "Shall we try and make it like it's always been here?" And I've gone, that's impossible because you can't make something from new that feels like it's always been there, but we'll give it our very best shot. And I think that really stood to us because we made a lot of decisions in terms of, like, for example, the anaglypta paper on the ceiling, which seems like a tiny thing, but it's a real nod to how pubs would have been done 50 years ago. The same with the French polishing of all the mahogany that we put in. Nobody really does that anymore. Right? You go to a pub now and they put in good quality wooden bars, but they just paint it with lacquer, and you don't have that feeling of care and longevity that a really good French polisher will do. And I'm not going to tell you how much that cost, but it felt at the time like the most ridiculous waste of money to spend that amount on getting the finishes buffed up to the way they would have done in Victorian times. But I think people kind of feel it and get it. And stuff like the glass we use is the same glass they would have used 80 years ago, the marmoleum around the bar, the fact that we use carpet when people don't. There's a sense of timelessness. Also, I don't know if you noticed the lighting in the bar, none of it matches. So we purposely bought everything bespoke from eBay. So it's got a feeling of that it's not designed by a designer. And that's the case, actually, because we didn't really have a designer. We just did what we felt was right.
Yeah. I've eaten on every single floor now, from the is it the grill, then it's the claret, is it?
You got the grill room, the chop room, the claret room, and the terrace, yeah.
And then the terrace. And when I was up there on the at the terrace, which is the outdoor bit, right at the very, very top, it's wonderful up there. And it's quite peaceful as well. It's funny,
can be.
You walk in here and it's chaos sometimes in a good way, a lot of energy. And you go up there and you could have a intimate kind of date if you wanted to.
Well, I love that. There's loads of different experiences you can have in the same premises, and that was something we really thought about from the start, because a lot of people open venues, restaurants, cafes, different places, and they think about the guest experience and they try and make it the same everywhere. Whereas you use the word chaos. Chaos is really important to pubs, and there should be a feeling of organised, beautiful, managed chaos in order to make people excited. You don't want things to be regimented and set out in a particular way. You don't want squares and big rooms and bright lights. What you want is places where people can hide. Different types of furniture, different types of space. And it's good that you can say, I went in there and I enjoyed a few pints and I met people I wouldn't have normally met. But you can also say, I went upstairs and I sat at a beautiful table and had a really lovely 3-course meal in a tranquil place. So that was something we really thought about that theme of things being eclectic and not necessarily going together, but they do work together, is exactly the way we think about guest experiences. And we think it's working, but we don't know why. Yeah,
it definitely is working. And I'll tell you something that you said to me, which you may or may not remember. It was only about 2 weeks ago. I'm a big red wine fan and drinker, and I've drunk everything from your regular bottles of Rioja or Cabernet Sauvignon right up to the Petruchis, Le Pans, Haut-Brion, etc. And I noticed on your menu you have really, really good, decent, affordable wines, the Riojas, etc., or Cabernets, and then you have your Mouton Rothschilds, and it's quite rare to see that, especially in a quote-unquote a pub.
Yeah, well, we thought about that as well, and we want to have that sort of depth of availability of experience, and I think we have Chateau Latour on there for $2,500. Yeah. Fair enough. We've only got 2 bottles of it hidden away, but we've sold 4 in the last year because somebody goes, I really fancy that, and they do it and they have it, and the table beside them might be coming in and having the set menu for 29 quid and 2 glasses of water, and they're out of there with a total bill of 70 quid with a really good 3-course meal, whereas the table beside them that's just having a slightly better experience with really good wine is going to spend $5,000. And we want to be able to have that huge sort of gap of spend and experience. You want rich people to be able to spend if they want, and you want people who are on a budget to be able to have a fucking brilliant time as well. And that's why we've got a $4.95 pint on there. You can come in here and have a pint and be part of this business for an investment of $4.95, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I can feel the passion, mate. Let's talk about this famous drink in front of us. There's 2 elements to this. You've got the regular Guinness, and then you have this Zero. Guinness Zero, which I believe you're the only establishment currently that pours it.
But I think they've launched it in 3 or 4, including the George.
On draft.
Yeah, on draft. Yeah, so it will be becoming a bit more ubiquitous and around there. But I'm pretty happy with how this liquid is coming out through the system that we installed here. This installation that I did, basically, I designed the Guinness installation before I designed the pub. So that was kind of nailed in how it would be, and the pub was built around it. And it really works because the lines are really short, the temperature is exactly correct, the gas pressures are exactly correct, the speed of pour is exactly correct, and we keep it really spotless. So I do think it gives us a tiny margin above everyone else. So it really tastes delicious.
A quick Google search by anybody, they will see and read that apparently you sell roughly 200 pints of Guinness an hour every single day of the week. How true is that?
I think that's probably an exaggeration. I mean, we can do 500 pints an hour if we need to, and we do quite regularly, but there's other hours that you might do 20, 30, 50. But what I can say is that we've been astounded by the actual volume of regular Guinness that's going through this business over the last year. I'm certain that there's not another pub or outlet in the British Isles, or probably in the world, that's doing the volume that we're doing. And I'm very proud of that as well. It's a big job. You can actually hear the barrels moving around at the moment downstairs, because that's what we do. We've got to pull them out and put them in all the time. But it's not unusual that we do 50 barrels of Guinness in a day, which is insane.
And what's the secret to a good Guinness? It's a secret.
Honestly, there's as I said before, I think there's probably about 30 individual different things, ranging in very important and not that important, that you got to do. And we try and do all of them. And in fact, we do all of them. But honestly, the reason why it's really good is because we sell so much of it. If you've got the line on all the time and there's fresh beer going in at one end, and it's coming out the tap at the right temperature and pressure all day long. You come and get a pint, it's fresh, it's beautiful, it's got the right balance of flavour. It can't get contaminated, it can't sit in the line for too long, it can't go too cold, it can't go too warm. So the chances of you getting a brilliant pint here are very high.
When we was walking around the Black, the Rat, and also the Richard Hambleton Gold Horse and Rider, the edition, we had to stand outside only probably for about 10 minutes before we orchestrated the works coming through this building and putting them up into the storage facility.
Yeah.
I kid you not, I think Chris can vouch for it, and whoever else was with me, we probably heard about 4 or 5 people say, this is the best Guinness in London.
Well, it's proud, if you... There's dozens of pubs that I would go to and have a pint of Guinness, that are equally good and really good. But I'm very proud that people are believing and living the fact that we do it as well as we possibly can, and we sell hundreds of pints. So, yeah, it's pretty good.
So before the Devonshire, year ago, you were running a lot of other pubs. So was your role, you was employed by other pubs to take over and then push it forward?
Not quite correct. I mean, the thing is, my last pub I left in 2022, and I spent 18 months actually really focusing on this, so we were cooking the menu for a year. We were thinking about how we would do all the finishes. We were talking to carpenters and decorators and electricians and trying to work out how to do this, and obviously we had to do the lease and all that. So I did spend a long time together with Charlie just planning all this. Before that, I ran the Guinea and the Windmill in Mayfair.
Yeah. No.
And going back, there's a little beautiful art piece there that was commissioned by my daughters for Christmas. Of I think it's 13 or 14 pubs that I've run since 1989, when I accidentally came over here for the weekend. But they're all the ones. I mean, there have been other ones that I've been looking after, but they're the ones that my name's been over the door of. So I've had the license and ran it for a period of time, and I love all of them. They've been brilliant.
Oh, I mean, I've been to quite a few of them, but I've got to say, I mean, the best one so far is definitely the Devonshire. Why did you transition though from working at some of these great establishments to actually setting this up? Why? What gave you the purpose to do this place?
It's Charlie, really. I mean, me and Charlie have been talking about it for a while. He's always wanted to work with me to do a big thing. And actually, I thought we were never going to do it, because there was an ultimatum in probably 2021, towards the end of the pandemic. Charlie said, come on, let's do this pub. And I've gone, if you can find a pub within 5 minutes walk of the Coach and Horses, that's Soho's Coach and Horses, that's in Soho, and that's got more than 6,000 square feet, I'll do it. And I knew that that's impossible, because all the pubs in Soho, if you think about them, are quite small, apart from maybe one, like the Crown and Two Chairman maybe, but you never get hold of those. It's just not possible. So I sort of thought, yeah, there you go, mate, let me know. Yeah, I'll be in touch. But, and we're very, very close, but I knew that if I wanted to do one, it had to be in the West End, and it had to be just one, and it had to be really big. So the thing was, when this came up, it was a no-brainer. But getting it to come up was a huge leap of faith and an amazing piece of work by Charlie to actually get this out and to be able to turn it back into a pub, which is another story, because nobody opens pubs anymore. Yeah. And to actually get the license and get it done was a huge amount of work. I
mean, before I met you and before I really knew what this place was, we used to be, as in Woodbury House, in a private art studio on Archer Street, where by the Windmill actually. And I used to walk past this place before it was a Devonshire. It was Jamie Oliver's, and it was another restaurant. And when the last one shut down and this opened, I said to myself, I wonder how long this one's going to be around for.
Yeah, because
here we are.
Everyone else who's been here went bust. Do you know what I mean? Going right back. So some of my best and closest friends, including, and I'm going to name him, Dan Marsh, who's a big art collector in Mallorca, who's a great hospitality guy. He sat me down and said, "You're fucking mad, mate. Why would you want to do that?" I remember this pub from the 2000s when he was big in hospitality and looking after all these places. And he said, "It was always a shithole, never made any money. I don't know why you're doing it." But somehow we've managed to keep the wolf from the door, and we're doing all right.
You're doing definitely better, all right. The guy who's probably taken the lion's share for us, as far as the artist that we represent, has been Black the Rat naturally because of the first piece that you had. Great. He's been here, etc. Our latest signing is a guy called Toxic, and we've just done his UK debut solo show, all imperfections included. This limited edition piece is called On the Inside. He came over on his own to have a pint of Guinness. You ended up meeting up with him.
Yeah, me and him had a really nice chat. He's such a lovely guy.
I was going to ask you, what's your feelings towards Toxic?
Well, I'm always interested and attracted by people who A, are creative and interesting, and B, live properly. You know, so he's one of these guys. He's come from a tough old background in New Jersey, is it?
New York,
yeah, and done all this thing, got his art done. He's a lovely guy. He's moved to France. He lives in the countryside. He loves his food and drink. He loves his life, and we had a really, really great chat. And I had no idea of the quality of his work when I met him first, if I'm honest with you. And then when I went to the exhibition, I thought, yeah, really, really good stuff.
What do you like about that particular work?
Do you know what? I just love art that pops, you know, where there's a bit of contrast in it and it kind of draws your eye to it. The mix of colour and brush strokes and, you know, the care that's in there. And I also like the abstractness of it. You're not really immediately certain what it is, but your eye is still drawn in by the arrows, the lines, the perspective, and the way it's actually constructed and put together. It's a really lovely piece.
Yeah, and the Hambleton and the Black the Rat, I know we spoke off air a bit more about them. Yeah. And in your own words, you said the Black the Rat is more simplistic, but when you move over to the Richard Hambleton, you first see it, you might have one opinion, then I gave you the narrative behind it, and it shaped the taste buds.
Totally, and that's the thing about any picture or any photo or any piece of art. You can look at it and make a decision about whether you like it and what it means to you. And then afterwards, when you speak to the artist or someone who knows what the story is, and you hear the story, and you look at it again, you see something completely different. And there's dozens of pieces in this room that you could say that about. And I love that. And I love the fact that there's great, strong stories between so many of them. And the Hambleton one, of course, is amazing. Yeah. You know, I really am enjoying the juxtaposition of Joe Lycett's original vegan thug looking over at the cow there. I love beef. We need to give him a name, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think we do.
The hippo's called Greg, by the way, so you can let me know what the cow's called.
All right, well, nice to meet you, Greg, and I'll come up with, maybe we'll call him Cow Guinness or something like that. Just around this off then, I was saying, what is going to be the next plan for the Devonshire? Do you see yourself scaling this or franchising it? Or
absolutely not.
This is just the one place?
This has always been the place that I want to run. I want to be seen as the governor here. I'm not doing another pub. I'm not expanding and doing a chain of pubs. The Devonshire was designed to not be rolled out. And I think that's why we've been able to do so many unique things that you wouldn't want to do again, you know? And I keep an eye on it. I'm here most days. I love the staff, the people who come in here, the guests. Yeah, it's great. And that's what I want to do. And I'll be here doing that.
Good. All right, well, look, cheers to that, mate.
Cheers,
Thank you very
Steve.
much.
Good to see you, Stephen.
Good to collaborate, and hopefully there'll be a few more projects down in the pipeline.
Definitely.
All right.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.